A meek and mild-mannered man is bullied, insulted, and belittled regularly until he meets someone for a short while who turns out to be a true friend and teaches him a valuable lesson that changes his life. Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to be discussing the short story Bonku Babu's Friend by Satyajit Ray. Ray was a multi-talented and highly creative individual and a multiple award winner for his varied work, but is considered one of the most famous film directors in Indian cinema. He wrote multiple novels and short stories, and this one in particular is a science fiction story with some elements of humor in it. Now, let's get straight to the explanation of the story. No one had ever seen Bonku Babu get cross. So the story starts with the writer saying that nobody had ever seen Bonku Babu get upset by anything. Some people lose their temper at every small thing and seem to be in a perpetual bad mood, but Bonku Babu was the other extreme. To tell the truth, it was difficult to imagine what he might say or do if one day he did get angry. So, because no one had ever seen him get upset, nobody really knew what he was capable of saying or doing if he did get angry. Now, why does the writer start like this? Whenever a writer starts with a precursor or hint like this, it almost certainly means that somewhere in this story, this thing is going to happen. So, let's see if it does. It was not as if there was never any reason for him to lose his temper. Meaning, some situations could have made him angry, but still he would never lose his temper. And now, shortly, we are going to see all the kinds of things that happened to him, but he kept his cool. For the last 22 years, Bonku Babu had taught geography and Bengali at the Kankurkachi Primary School. So, in this story, Bonku Babu is 50 years old. He has been teaching geography and Bengali for the last 22 years. That means he began his career as a teacher at the age of 28. Every year, a new batch of students replace the old one, but old or new, the tradition of teasing poor Bonku Babu continued among all the students. Students would come and go, they would pass out of school, and another batch would replace them. And one thing that remained constant was that whichever batch of students would come, they would always tease Bonku Babu and trouble him. It's a kind of tradition that was passed down from one generation of students to the next. Some drew his picture on the blackboard, others put glue on his chair, or on the night of Kali Puja, they lit a chasing rocket and set it off to chase him. Bonku Babu did not get upset by any of this. Only sometimes he cleared his throat and said, "Shame on you, boys." So we see all the ways in which his students would trouble him. Now, these are things that would upset any normal person, especially if they happen regularly. He is their teacher and they are treating him with disrespect and disregard. But what's the worst he would do? He would clear his throat and say, "Shame on you, boys." That's all. No getting angry, no shouting at them, no punishing them, nothing. So the boys would just disregard him and carry on and play the next trick on him. One of the reasons for maintaining his calm was simply that he could not afford to do otherwise. If he did lose his temper and left his job in a fit of pique, he knew how difficult it would be then to find another at his age. So now you're probably wondering, why was he calm to such a degree? There were two reasons for it. The first reason was that if he lost his temper and he quit his job in anger or irritation, he knew how difficult it would be to find another job at his age since he was a teacher at a small primary school and he was already 50 years old. Another reason was that in every class there were always a few good students, even if the rest of the class was full of pranksters. Teaching this handful of good boys was so rewarding that to Bonku Babu, that alone made life as a teacher worth living. So, now the second reason why he didn't get angry was that in every class he considered that there were always a few good students, even if the rest were pranksters. Teaching this handful of good boys who wanted to learn was what made him want to continue teaching. He was happy to focus on and pay attention to these few boys to ensure that they received a good education from him. At times, he invited those boys to his house, offered them snacks, and told them tales of foreign lands and exciting adventures. So, those few good boys, the sincere students, he would invite them to his home and offer them snacks, and he would tell them stories about foreign countries and exciting adventure stories. And how did he know all these stories? Only through books. He told them about life in Africa, the discovery of the North Pole, the fish in Brazil that ate human flesh, and about Atlantis, the continent submerged under the sea. He was a good storyteller. He had his audience enthralled. So Bonku Babu had not traveled anywhere. He did not know firsthand about these things, but he had read about them in books. And since he was a geography teacher, he was very interested in other countries and their stories. It showed that he has a lot of curiosity to learn and creativity and imagination to tell stories. He told the boys about how tribes lived in Africa, about the discovery of the North Pole, the fish in Brazil that ate human flesh, and about Atlantis, the continent that was submerged under the sea. He told the stories in such an engaging and interesting way that his audience used to be almost hypnotized listening to them. During the weekend, Bonku Babu went to the lawyer Shripati Majumdar's house to spend the evenings with other regulars. So now make a note of all the people who used to be gathered at the lawyer's house. So the first was Shripati Babu the lawyer, second was Nidhu Babu, then Chandi Babu, Ram Kanai, Bhairav Chakravarti and Poncha Ghosh who owned the bamboo grove. You will come across these people when you read the story further. On a number of occasions, he had come back thinking, enough, never again. The reason was simply that he could put up with the pranks played by the boys in his school, but when grown, even middle aged men started making fun of him, it became too much to bear. So here we see that Bonku Babu does not enjoy these evening gatherings, even though he keeps attending them. Many times he feels that he should stop going there altogether. The reason is that while he can tolerate the mischief of children, it becomes much more annoying when grown men make fun of him. At these meetings that Shripati Babu hosted in the evenings, nearly everyone poked fun at Bonku Babu, sometimes bringing his endurance to breaking point. Only the other day, less than 2 months ago, they were talking about ghosts. Usually, Bonku Babu kept his mouth shut. So now the men who met at Shripati Babu's house in the evenings, they regularly make fun of Bonku Babu and sometimes they push him almost to his limit. This is a regular occurrence. So normally Bonku Babu keeps quiet. He avoids getting involved in conversations because he knows that if he speaks, he may become the target of their jokes. That day, for some unknown reason, he opened it and declared that he was not afraid of ghosts. That was all. But it was enough to offer a golden opportunity to the others. So then, on one particular day, during a discussion about ghosts, for some reason, he decides to speak up. He opened it means he opened his mouth and spoke up. And he says that he is not afraid of ghosts. Now, this is a very simple and harmless statement, but it became an opportunity for the others to tease him or to humiliate him. So, the moment he speaks, they seize it and they turn it against him. On his way back that night, Bonku Babu was attacked by a spook. As he was passing a tamarind tree, a tall, thin figure leapt out and landed on his back. As it happened, this apparition had smeared black ink all over itself, possibly at the suggestion of someone at the meeting. Bonku Babu did not feel frightened, but he was injured. For 3 days, his neck ached. Worst of all, his new kurta was torn and it had black stains all over. What kind of a joke was this? So now we see the trick that they played on him. Later that night, while he was walking home, someone pretends to be a ghost and attacks him. A tall, thin figure jumps down from a tamarind tree and lands on his back. This so called ghost had smeared black ink all over itself as a prank planned by someone, most likely one of the men from the gathering. So Bonko Babu is not frightened by this, but he gets physically hurt. His neck aches for 3 days because the person jumped on him and his new kurta is also torn and stained by the black ink. So the last line, what kind of joke was this? shows that the prank really annoyed him because it was cruel and irresponsible and it was not just harmless fun. Even so, Bonku Babu had come to these meetings. If he didn't, what would Shripati Babu think? Not only was he a very important man in the school committee and in the village, but he couldn't do without Bonku Babu, who could provide amusement to all. So, even after such an incident, Bonku Babu continues to attend these gatherings. This tells us a lot about his situation. He feels that he cannot stop going. One reason is that Shripati Babu is an important man in the school committee and in the locality as well. So, Bonku Babu does not want to get on his wrong side. At the same time, there is also a slightly ironic point here. The others enjoy his presence not because they respect him, but because he provides them with amusement. He has become a source of entertainment for them. On one particular day, the topic of conversation was high flying. In other words, they were talking of satellites. Soon after sunset, a moving point of light had been seen in the northern sky. So, that particular day, the topic of conversation shifts to something completely different, which is satellites. The author even uses the phrase high flying as a joke because they are literally talking about things in the sky. A moving point of light has been seen in the sky, which has caught everyone's attention and curiosity. A similar light was seen 3 months ago, which had led to much speculation. In the end, it turned out to be a Russian satellite called Khotka. Or was it Poshka? We are told that a similar light had been seen 3 months earlier, and after much discussion, it was identified as a Russian satellite. The uncertainty in the name Khotka or Poshka adds a touch of humor, showing that the people talking about it are not very sure or knowledgeable. Anyway, this satellite was supposed to be going around the Earth at a height of 400 miles and providing a lot of valuable information to scientists. That evening, Bonku Babu was the first to spot that strange light. Then he called Nidhu Babu and showed it to him. So, a satellite is an object that travels around the Earth at a great height and provides useful information to scientists needed for communication, navigation, weather forecasting, etc. So that evening, Bonku Babu had been the first person to notice this strange light in the sky and he showed it to Nidhu Babu. This shows that Bonku Babu is observant and aware even though the others do not take him seriously. However, he arrived at the meeting to find that Nidhu Babu had coolly claimed full credit for being the first to see it and was boasting a great deal. Bongo Babu said nothing. So, when he reaches the gathering in the evening, he finds that Nidhu Babu has taken full credit for spotting the light in the sky and he's boasting about it. So, what is Bongo Babu's reaction? He says nothing. Even though he knows the truth and what is happening is unfair, he does not correct Nidhu Babu or speak up for himself. This shows that his nature is quiet and non confrontational, means he doesn't like to get into arguments or fights, but also shows how easily others take advantage of him. No one knew much about satellites, but there was nothing to stop them from offering their views. Said Chandi Babu, somebody sees a point of light in some obscure corner of the sky and the press gets all excited about it. All humbug. After this, the conversation continues, but it becomes clear that none of them actually understand satellites properly, but that does not stop them from expressing their strong opinions. Chandi Babu dismisses the whole matter as humbug, meaning nonsense or something exaggerated. He says that people and the press, meaning the newspapers, sometimes make a big deal out of something as simple as a point of light in the sky. Ram Kanai countered this remark. He was still young. No, it may not be any of us here, but it is a human achievement, surely, and a great achievement at that. So Ram Kanai tries to express a different point of view. He disagrees with Chandi Babu and points out that even if the people sitting there do not fully understand satellites, it is still an important achievement by the human race. This shows that he's from a younger generation than the others and he has a more open and appreciative mindset. Well, you wouldn't expect a bunch of monkeys to do that, would you? So Chandi Babu responds sarcastically, saying that of course it is a human achievement because it's not as if monkeys could have done it. He's just mocking Ram Kanai's opinion. All right, said Nidhu Babu, let's not talk of satellites. So Nidhu Babu interrupts and he suggests changing the topic. This shows that the discussion is not really serious. They just keep rambling from one topic to the next. After all, it's just a machine going around the earth, they say. No different from a spinning top. A top would start spinning if you got it going, or a fan would start to rotate if you pressed a switch. A satellite's the same. But think of a rocket. That can't be dismissed so easily, can it? So Nidhu Babu tries to simplify the idea of satellites, comparing them to simple objects like a spinning top or a fan. According to him, a satellite is just a machine that moves once it is set in motion, like a spinning top or a fan, so there's nothing very special about it. This comparison is misleading because he's comparing a scientific achievement to something very ordinary. But he says that rockets are different. They cannot be dismissed so easily because they are more impressive or difficult to understand. Chandi Babu wrinkled his nose. A rocket? Why, what good is a rocket? So Chandi Babu wrinkles his nose, which shows that he has disinterest and he does not find the topic appealing or important at all. All right, if one was made here in our country, took off from the Maidan in Calcutta, and we could all go and buy tickets to watch the show, well, then that would be nice. But so he behaves dismissively by saying that rockets would only be interesting if they were something people could watch as a form of entertainment, like a show. He imagines a rocket taking off from a familiar place like the Maidan in Calcutta, where people could gather and watch it. You're right, Ramkanai agreed. A rocket has no meaning for us here. Bhairav Chakravarti spoke next. Suppose some creature from a different planet arrived on Earth. So Ramkanai agrees with him, saying that rockets have no meaning for them at Kankurgachi. This shows how small minded they are because they cannot see the significance of scientific progress. At this point, Bhairav Chakravarti wonders aloud what would happen if a creature from another planet came to Earth. So what? Even if it did, you and I would never be able to see it. Yes, that's true enough. Everyone turned their attention to their cups of tea. There did not seem to be anything left to be said. So the others immediately dismissed this idea, saying that even if such a thing were to happen, ordinary people like them would never get to see it. What are they talking about? If a creature from another planet came to Earth. The conversation temporarily seems to come to an end. Everyone returns to their tea, and then there is a brief silence. After a few moments of silence, Bonku Babu cleared his throat and said gently, Suppose, suppose they came here. So then Bonku Babu clears his throat and he gently asks, what would happen if such a creature came to Kankurgachi? It's just a simple question, but as we have seen before, even such a simple thing is likely to be turned against him. Nidhu Babu feigned total amazement. Hey, Bunkam wants to say something. What did you say, Bunkam? Who's going to come here? From where? So Nidhu Babu pretends to be shocked, as if it is surprising that Bonku Babu has anything to say at all. This is not a genuine surprise. He's mocking him and also calling him Bunkam. He repeats Bonku Babu's question in an exaggerated way. Who's going to come here? Where from? To make it sound foolish. Bonku Babu repeated his words, his tone still gentle. Suppose someone from a different planet came here. So Bonku Babu does not react angrily. He keeps his tone gentle, suggesting that someone from another planet might come here. This is important because even though he is being mocked, he does not raise his voice or argue. He simply repeats himself, showing both his patience and his sincerity. As he did so often, Bhairav Chakravarti slapped Bonku Babu's back loudly and rudely, grinned and said, so as usual, Bhairav Chakravarti behaves rudely. He slaps Bonku Babu on his back loudly. This is something which he does often and it is not friendly. It is disrespectful and meant to belittle him. Bravo! What a thing to say. Where is a creature from another planet going to land? Not Moscow, not London, not New York, not even Calcutta, but here. In Kankurgachi, you do think big, don't you? So Bhairav sarcastically praises Bonku Babu, saying, Bravo! That he is suggesting that an alien won't land in major cities like Moscow, London, New York, or even Calcutta, but in Kankurgachi, trying to make Bonku Babu's suggestion sound ridiculous. The final remark, you do think big, don't you, is again sarcastic and meant to mock Bonku Babu's imagination rather than appreciate it. Bonku Babu fell silent, but several questions rose in his mind. Was it really impossible? If an alien had to visit Earth, would it really matter where it arrived first? It might not aim to go straight to any other part of the world. So Bonku Babu became silent, but he begins to think deeply. He wonders that whether it was really impossible and does it truly matter where an alien might land first. It may not want to go to some other part of the world. It may want to come over here to Kankurgachi. All right, it was highly unlikely that such a thing would happen in Kankurgachi, but who was to say for sure that it could not happen at all? So he's thinking that maybe it's unlikely for such an event to happen in a place like Kankurgachi, but it was not completely impossible. This shows that he is not rigid in his thought process. His mind is open to possibilities. Shripati Babu was silent so far. Now, as he shifted in his seat, everyone looked at him. He put his cup down and spoke knowledgeably. Look, if someone from a different planet does come to Earth, I can assure you that he will not come to this god forsaken place. So, Shripati Babu, who has been silent until now, shifts in his seat and prepares to speak. Everybody immediately turns their attention to him. He confidently states that if someone from another planet were to come to Earth, they would definitely not choose a place like theirs. Those people are no fools. It is my belief that they are sahibs and they will land in some western country where all the sahibs live. Understand? Everyone agreed with the sole exception of Bonku Babu. Sripati Babu says that such beings would not be foolish and believes that they would be sahibs, meaning people from western countries. Because of this, he believes that they would only land in a western country where such people live. This shows a kind of colonial mindset where western countries and people were considered more important or advanced. Everyone immediately agrees with him except Bonku Babu, but he still does not speak. Chandi Babu decided to take things a bit further. He nudged Nidhu Babu silently, pointed at Bonku Babu, and spoke innocently. Why, I think Bonku Babu is quite right. So then Chandi Babu decides to take the teasing further and he nudges Nidhu Babu, saying that he agrees with Bonku Babu. Isn't it natural that aliens should want to come to a place where there's a man like our Bonku Bihari? If they wanted to take away a specimen, could they find anything better? No, I don't think so, Nidhu Babu joined in. Consider his looks, not to mention his brains. Yes, Bunkam is the ideal specimen. He mocks Bonku Babu by saying that aliens would come to their place specifically because of Bonku Babu, because if they wanted to take a specimen, Bonku Babu would be the perfect choice. Nidhu Babu joins in and adds to the insult. He mocks Bonku Babu's appearance and intelligence, calling him the ideal specimen. Right, suitable for keeping in a museum or a zoo, Ramkanai chipped in. So Ramkanai adds that Bonku Babu would be suitable for keeping in a museum or even a zoo. They are all ganging up on him and openly insulting him under the pretext of playful teasing. Bonku Babu did not reply but wondered silently. If anyone were to look for a specimen, weren't the others just as suitable? Look at Shripati Babu. His chin was so much like a camel's. And that Bhairav Chakravarti, his eyes were like the eyes of a tortoise. Nidhu Babu looked like a rat, Ramkanai like a goat, and Chandi Babu was like a flittermouse. If a zoo really had to be filled up, so Bonku Babu does not say anything aloud, but something is going on inside his mind. He's thinking that while the others were calling him a specimen, If someone were actually looking for a specimen, are the others any better than him? He observes each of them closely and he compares them to different animals. Shripati Babu's chin reminds him of a camel's. Bhairav Chakravarti's eyes are like a tortoise. Nidhu Babu like a rat. Ram Kanai like a goat. And Chandi Babu like a flittermouse or a bat. These comparisons are quite sharp and humorous, and the line, if a zoo really had to be filled up, shows that he is thinking of the same kinds of insults for them as they always subject him to, though he hasn't said anything yet to their faces. Tears sprang to his eyes. Bonku Babu had come to the meeting hoping for once to enjoy himself. That was clearly not to be. He could not stay here any longer. He rose to his feet. So we see a really emotional reaction from Bonku Babu now. Tears came to his eyes. This shows that the constant teasing and humiliation have finally affected him very deeply. This time he had actually come to the meeting hoping to enjoy himself, thinking that maybe this time it would be different. But he's completely disappointed. At this point, he decides that he cannot stay here any longer and he stands up to leave. Take care, Bonkuda, warned Ramkanai. It's a moonless night, remember, and it's a Saturday. Very auspicious for ghosts and spooks. Everyone howled with delighted laughter. So even when he's leaving, the others do not stop their teasing. Ramkanai mocks him again by warning him about ghosts, referring to the earlier incident where somebody jumped on him. Everyone laughs loudly, very amused, even though his feelings are clearly hurt. Bonko Babu was not carrying a torch or a lantern, there was no need for it. So he sets out without a torch or lantern because he feels he doesn't need it. He knows the way quite well. It was too cold for snakes to be out and about, and he knew his way very well. Normally, not many people took this route, but it meant a shortcut for him. So now the entire scene shifts from the noisy gathering to Bonku Babu walking home alone at night. He is not afraid because the route is familiar to him and he knows that there are no dangers like snakes because of the cold weather. And even though this path is not commonly used, he prefers it because it is a shortcut. In the last few minutes, he had become aware of something unusual. At first, he could not put his finger on it. Somehow, things were different tonight. What was wrong? What was missing? Suddenly, he realized that the crickets were silent. Not one was chirping. So now we see that something begins to feel very different about his surroundings. At first, he can't identify what's wrong. He feels like something is missing. And normally at night, there would be the constant chirping of crickets, but he realizes that's what's wrong. They are completely silent tonight. The complete absence of this sound creates a strange and unnatural atmosphere. Today, there was only an eerie silence. What had happened to the crickets? Were they all asleep? So the silence feels eerie and unsettling. He wonders if they are asleep, but this does not make sense and he's very puzzled. Puzzled, Bonku Babu walked another 20 yards and then he saw the light. At first, he thought a fire had broken out. Bang in the middle of the bamboo grove in the clearing near a small pond, quite a large area was glowing pink. A dull light shone on every branch and every leaf. Down below, the ground behind the pond was lit by a much stronger pink light. But it was not a fire, for it was still. So then Bonku Babu sees something unusual, a pink light in the bamboo grove. At first, he assumes it must be a fire, which is a natural reaction, but as he looks more closely, he realizes that the light is steady, not flickering, and it spreads across a large area, lighting up the trees, leaves, and the ground near the pond. Bonku Babu kept moving. Soon his ears began ringing. He felt as if someone was humming loudly, a long, steady noise. There was no way he could stop it. Bonku Babu broke into goose pimples, but an irrepressible curiosity drove him further forward. So he moves closer to the source of the light, and as he does so, his ears begin to ring as if something were humming loudly, and he could not make it stop. He also gets goosebumps, showing that his body is reacting with fear or tension. Despite all this, his curiosity gets the better of him and he moves forward. As he went past a cluster of bamboo stems, an object came into view. So he passes a cluster of bamboo stems and he sees an object. What is it? Let's see. It looked like a giant glass bowl turned upside down, covering the pond completely. It was through its translucent shade that a strong yet gentle pink light was shining out to turn the whole area radiant. So, the object he sees is something like a giant glass bowl placed upside down over the pond. The surface is translucent, meaning light can pass through it. And from inside it, a strong yet gentle pink light is shining out. Strong yet gentle means that it's a bright light, but it's not harsh to the eyes. This light spreads across the entire area, making everything look bright and almost unreal. He took a few steps to get a better look, but felt suddenly as if an electric current had passed through his body. In the next instant, he was rendered completely immobile. So, Bonku Babu wants to get a closer look at this giant bowl and this pink light, but the moment he takes a few steps forward, he feels as if an electric current has passed through his body and his body stops responding. His hands and feet were tied with an invisible rope. There was no strength left in his body. He could move neither forward nor backward. So he feels as if his hands and feet are tied with an invisible rope. He has no strength left in his body. He feels weak and he cannot move either forward or backward. He is stuck in the same position, completely helpless, as if he's frozen. A few moments later, Bonku Babu, still standing stiffly on the same spot, saw that the object gradually stopped breathing. At once, his ears ceased ringing and the humming stopped. So then he notices that after a few moments, the object appears to stop breathing. This word is interesting since it gives the object a kind of living quality, the way a human's or animal's chest would rise and fall while breathing. And that ringing sound which he was feeling in his ears and that humming sound which he could hear, everything stopped. A second later, a voice spoke, shattering the silence of the night. It sounded human but was extraordinarily thin. Then suddenly, once all that ringing and humming stops, he hears a voice that sounds human, but it is unusual and very thin. A thin voice means very high pitched. Milipi ping kruk, milipi ping kruk, it said loudly. Bonku Babu gave a start. What did it mean? What language was this? And where was the speaker? The next words the voice spoke made his heart jump again. So the voice first speaks in a completely unknown language. This startles Bonku Babu because he cannot understand what it means, what language is being spoken, or even where the voice is coming from. He can only hear the sound, he cannot see anybody. Who are you? Who are you? Why? These were English words. Was the question addressed to him? Bonku Babu swallowed. I am Bonku Bihari Datta, sir. Bonku Bihari Datta, he replied. Then he hears the voice switch to English and he asks, Who are you? This shocks him even more because someone was speaking in English to him. Bonku Bihari gathers himself and replies politely, giving his full name. Are you English? Are you English? The voice went on. Bonku Bihari shouted back, Bengali, sir, a Bengali, sir. So far, nobody is visible. He can only hear the voice. The voice asks him whether he is English, and Bonku Babu nervously but politely clarifies that he is Bengali, even calling the voice Sir. This was followed by a short pause. Then the voice came back, speaking clearly. Namaskar. Bonku Babu heaved a sigh of relief and returned the greeting. Namaskar, he said, suddenly realizing that the invisible bonds that were holding him tightly had disappeared. So after Bonku Babu told the voice that he is a Bengali, the voice speaks again after a short pause and says Namaskar to him. He immediately feels very relieved because that is a familiar greeting, and he returns the greeting to that voice. He realizes at that moment that the invisible force that was holding him has disappeared, and now he can move his body freely again. He was free to run away, but he did not. Now his astounded eyes could see that a portion of the glass mound was sliding to one side, opening out like a door. So now that Bonku Babu can move and is free to run away, he can, but he doesn't, because his curiosity is stronger than his fear. He continues to watch as the object begins to open and a part of it slides aside like a door. Through that door emerged a head, like a plain, smooth ball, and then the body of a weird creature. Its arms and legs were amazingly thin. With the exception of its head, its whole body was covered by a shiny pink outfit. Instead of ears, it had a tiny hole on each side of its head. Now here we are getting the description of the creature who emerged from that big ball-like structure. He sees a head that looks like a smooth round ball. Then the rest of the body appears. Its arms and legs are very thin, and its body is covered in a shiny pink outfit. Instead of ears, it has small holes on the sides of its head where its ears should be. On its face were two holes where it should have had a nose and another gaping hole instead of a mouth. There was no sign of hair anywhere. Its eyes were round and bright yellow. They appeared to be glowing in the dark. So this creature that emerges from this structure, he doesn't have a nose, but instead he has two holes. Two holes for ears, two holes for nostrils. And instead of a proper mouth, there is a large opening. Again, a larger hole instead of a mouth. There is no hair anywhere on its body. Its eyes are round and bright yellow and seem to glow in the dark. It's unlike anything that he has ever seen in his life. The creature walked slowly towards Bonku Babu and stopped only a few feet away. Then it gave him a steady, unblinking stare. So then the creature, it walked slowly towards Bonku Babu and stopped just a few feet away from him, staring at him without blinking. Automatically, Bonku Babu found himself folding his hands. Having stared at him for nearly a minute, it spoke in the same voice that sounded more like a flute than anything else. Are you human? Yes. Is this earth? Yes. So, Bonku Babu's reaction is very natural and automatic. Without thinking, he folds his hands, which is a gesture of respect or greeting. Even in such a strange situation, he responds politely. The creature continues to stare at him for almost a full minute, almost as if he is observing him very carefully. Then it finally speaks in a voice that is described as sounding like a flute, like a thin, soft and slightly musical voice. It asks, "Are you human? Is this earth?" And Bonku Babu says, "Yes." "Ah, I thought as much. My instruments are not working properly. I was supposed to go to Pluto." Then the creature explains that it had intended to go to Pluto, the last planet in the solar system, but due to a malfunction with its navigation instruments, it has come here instead to Earth. I wasn't sure where I had landed, so I spoke to you first in the language they use on Pluto. When you didn't reply, I could tell I had landed on Earth. A complete waste of time and effort. It happened once before. Instead of going to Mars, I veered off and went to Jupiter. Delayed me by a whole day, it did. He he he. So the creature's explaining that he wasn't sure where he had landed initially and he had thought he was on the planet Pluto, so he spoke in the language of Pluto, those strange words that he uttered at the beginning. When Bonku Babu did not respond, the creature realized that it must have landed on Earth and complained that it was a complete waste of time and effort. It casually mentions that such mistakes have happened before, and once it had gone to Jupiter instead of going to Mars. So, despite being an intelligent creature from an advanced civilization, its technology can still malfunction and it can still make mistakes. Bonku Babu did not know what to say. He was feeling quite uncomfortable, for the creature had started to press his arms and legs with its long bony fingers. So now Bonku Babu does not know how to respond to all this. His mind is still trying to process everything that's happening. The creature is talking about all of this as if it's something routine for him, while for Bonku Babu, it's the most extraordinary thing that's ever happened to him. The creature starts examining him physically, pressing his arms and legs with its thin fingers. This makes Bonku Babu uncomfortable because he is being treated almost like an object of study, like a specimen. When it finished, it introduced itself. I am Ang from the planet Cranius, a far superior being than man. What? This creature, barely 4 feet tall, with such thin limbs and weird face, was superior to man? So after the creature formally introduces itself and says its name is Ang and that it comes from a planet called Cranius, it also claims that it is far superior compared to human beings. This statement surprises Bonku Babu. The creature looks so small, thin and so strange, so the idea that it is superior to humans seems ridiculous to him. Bonku Babu nearly burst out laughing. Ang read his mind immediately. There's no need to be so skeptical. I can prove it. How many languages do you know? Bonku Babu scratched his head. Bengali, English, and Hindi, a little Hindi, I mean. When Bonku Babu hears Ang say he is superior, he nearly laughs at this, but immediately Ang reads his mind and responds to his unspoken thought, saying that he can prove its superiority by asking how many languages Bonku knows. Bonku Babu is hesitant, but he stumbles over his own words because he doesn't quite know how to answer. You mean 2.5? Yes. I know 14,000. There isn't a single language in your solar system that I do not know. I also know 31 languages spoken on planets outside your system. I have been to 25 of them. How old are you? I am 50. I am 833. Do you eat animals? Bonku Babu had meat curry only recently on the day of Kali Puja. How could he deny it? So Ang asks if he knows 2.5 languages, which adds a touch of humor. And he makes a very impressive claim by saying that it knows 14,000 languages, including all the languages in Bonku Babu's solar system and 31 languages from other planets outside the solar system. It also says that it has traveled to 25 different planets compared to Bonku Babu, who has never even been outside Kankurgachi. So we have 9 planets in our solar system and Ang has been to 25, which means he's traveled to other planets in other solar systems. Then he asks Bonku Babu's age, who is 50 years old, while Ang is 833 years old. Next, he asks whether Bonku Babu eats animals. This question makes Bonku Babu uncomfortable because he has recently eaten meat and he doesn't want to lie to Ang. We stopped eating meat several centuries ago, Ang informed him. Before that, we used to eat the flesh of most creatures. I might have eaten you. Bonku Babu swallowed hard. Take a look at this. Ang offered him a small object. It looked like a pebble. Bonku Babu touched it for an instant and felt the same electric current pass through his body. He withdrew his hand at once. Ang tells him that as a species they stopped eating meat several centuries ago. Not years, not decades, but centuries. But before that, they used to eat the flesh of many creatures, even possibly somebody like Bonku Babu. This is said very casually, but it frightens him. Then Ang shows him a small object which looks like a simple pebble or a round smooth rock. But the moment Bonku Babu touches it, he feels the same electric shock that he had experienced earlier and he quickly pulls his hand away from it. Ang smiled. A little while ago you could not move an inch. Do you know why? It was only because I had this little thing in my hand. It would stop anyone from getting closer. Nothing can be more effective than this in making an enemy perfectly powerless without actually hurting him physically. Now, Bonku Babu felt genuinely taken aback. His mind was coming out of its stunned state. So Ang smiles and explains what the object does. He reveals to Bonku Babu that earlier when he was unable to move, it was because of this small device. It has the power to stop anyone from moving without causing any physical injury to them. So it's for his self-defense. But it works by making an enemy completely helpless without harming them. Instead of the way weapons are used for defense, it is non-violent. Ang said, "Is there any place that you have wished to visit or a scene that you have longed to see but never could?" Bonku Babu thought, why, the whole world remained to be seen. He taught geography, but what had he seen except a few villages and towns in Bengal? So Ang asks Bonku Babu a very personal question, whether there is any place he has always wanted to visit or something he has longed to see. This question makes Bonku Babu reflect on his own life. He realizes that although he is a geography teacher, he has seen very little of the world. His knowledge comes from books, not from real experience. There was so much in Bengal itself that he had never had the chance to see. The snow-capped Himalayas, the sea in Digha, the forests in the Sundarbans, or even that famous banyan tree in the botanical gardens of Shibpur. So now Bonku starts to think of all the places he has never seen. The Himalayas, the sea at Digha, the forests of the Sundarbans, even places within his own region. This is an important moment in the story because it highlights a quiet sadness in his life. He has knowledge and imagination, but he has had very limited opportunities. However, he mentioned none of these thoughts to Ang. "There is so much I would like to see," he finally admitted. "But most of all, I think I would like to visit the North Pole. I come from a warm country, you see, so..." Now, even though all these thoughts are coming to his mind, Bonku Babu does not share them. Instead, he gives a simple answer. He says that there are many places he would like to see, but most of all, he would like to visit the North Pole. He chooses the North Pole because it is completely different from his own environment. Coming from a warm country, the idea of extreme cold and snow is fascinating to him. Ang took out a small tube, one end of which was covered by a piece of glass. "Take a look through this," Ang invited. Bonku Babu peered through the glass and felt all his hair rise. Could this be true? Could he really believe his eyes? So Ang then takes out another device, a small tube with a glass end, and he asks Bonku to look through it. When he looks through the glass, he is immediately overwhelmed. The reaction, his hair standing on end, shows shock and amazement. He can hardly believe what he is seeing. Before him stretched an endless expanse of snow, dotted with large mounds, also covered with ice and snow. Above him, against a deep blue sky, all the colors of a rainbow were forming different patterns, changing every second. The aurora borealis. What was that? An igloo. There was a group of polar bears. Wait, there was another animal. A strange, peculiar creature. Yes, it was a walrus. There were two of them, in fact, and they were fighting. Their tusks were bared, large as radishes, and they were attacking each other. So now Bonku Babu is looking through this glass and he sees an amazing and unbelievable scene of the North Pole through the lens of that object. There's a vast stretch of snow and ice extending endlessly. Above him, he sees the aurora borealis, the northern lights, forming colorful patterns in the sky. These lights keep changing, making the scene even more magical. He also sees an igloo, polar bears, and then two walruses who had large tusks and they were fighting with each other. The description is very detailed, almost as if Bonku Babu is actually present over there. He is experiencing something that he had only read about in books. It fulfills a desire that he has had for a very long time, and this opens up a completely new world to him. Streams of bright red blood were running on the soft white snow. It was December and Bonku Babu was looking at an area hidden under layers of snow. Still, he broke into a sweat. So Bonku Babu sees streams of bright red blood flowing over the white snow. And it's very vivid, bright, and shocking. Even though he's only looking through a device, the experience feels so real that he begins to sweat, even though it is December and the scene itself is cold. What about Brazil? Don't you wish to go there? Asked Ang. Bonku Babu remembered instantly. Piranhas, those deadly carnivorous fish. Amazing. How did this Ang know what he would like to see? So at this point, Ang suddenly changes the scene and asks him whether he would like to see Brazil. Immediately, Bonku Babu recalls something he has read about piranhas, the dangerous flesh-eating fish. And he's amazed that Ang somehow knows what he would be interested in seeing. This proves that Ang has the ability to understand or read his thoughts. Bonku Babu peered through the tube again. He could see a dense forest. Only a little scattered sunlight had crept in through the almost impenetrable foliage. So now he looks back through the device and instead of seeing snow and ice, he now sees a dense, thick forest where very little sunlight reaches the ground because of all the plants and all the trees growing there. The atmosphere feels very dark and heavy and mysterious. There was a huge tree, and hanging from a branch, what was that? Oh God, he could never even have imagined the size of that snake. Anaconda. The name flashed through his mind. Yes, he had read somewhere about it. It was said to be much, much larger than a python. So when he's looking at this scene of this thick, dense, dark forest, suddenly he notices something hanging from a tree branch and he realizes that it is a huge snake and the sheer size of it shocks him. It is an anaconda, a creature he has only read about but now he is seeing it as if it were real. Oh, here was a canal. Crocodiles lined its banks, sleeping in the sun. One of them moved. It was going to go into the water. Splash! Bonku Babu could almost hear the noise. So now the scene again changes and he sees a canal with crocodiles lying along the banks or the shores. They looked like they were resting in the sun. Then suddenly, one crocodile moves and jumps into the water. It seemed so real that Bonku Babu can almost hear the splash of the water. The crocodile had jumped out of the water very quickly. With his eyes nearly popping out, Bonku Babu noted that there was virtually no flesh left on the belly of the crocodile. Bones were showing through clearly. Attached to the remaining flesh were 5 fish with amazingly sharp teeth and a monstrous appetite. Piranhas. So the crocodile that had just jumped into the water immediately jumped back out and Bonku was shocked to see that the crocodile's belly or stomach had almost no flesh left on it. Its bones were actually visible. Something had attacked it and he sees small fish with sharp teeth clinging still to the crocodile's body and eating its flesh. He realizes that these are piranhas. Bonku Babu could not bear to watch anymore. His limbs were trembling. His head reeled painfully. Now, do you believe that we are superior? Ang wanted to know. Bonku Babu ran his tongue over his parched lips. Yes, oh yes, certainly, of course, he croaked. So, after seeing all this, Bonku Babu cannot take any more. The experience is too overwhelming for him. His body begins to react, his limbs tremble, and he feels dizzy. He is no longer just curious or amazed, he is now physically affected by what he has seen. Ang then asks him directly whether he now believes that he and his species are superior. Bonku Babu, who's exhausted and shaken, immediately agrees that yes, you are superior to humans. Very well. Look, I have been watching you and I have examined your arms and legs. You belong to a much inferior species. There is no doubt about that. So now Ang has proven his superiority and then he tells Bonku that he has been observing him and he's realized that humans as a species they are inferior to Ang and his species. However, as human beings go, you are not too bad. I mean, you are a good man. But you have a major fault. You are too meek and mild. That is why you have made so little progress in life. So now Ang is telling him that your species may be inferior, but you yourself are not too bad, meaning that you are a good person, but you have one fault or one weakness, and that is that you are too meek and mild. Because of this, you have not made any progress in life. You must always speak up against injustice and protest if anyone hurts or insults you without any provocation. To take it quietly is wrong, not just for man but for any creature anywhere. Anyway, it was nice to have met you, although I wasn't supposed to be here at this time. So now Ang is giving him a very important piece of advice. He tells him that he must always speak up against injustice. If someone insults or hurts him without any reason, he should protest, he should speak up. Remaining silent and accepting such behavior is wrong, not just for human beings but for any living being. This advice connects to everything we have seen earlier in the story about how Bonku Babu was treated by his students and by the men at the gathering that he goes to in the evenings. Finally, Ang says that it was nice meeting him even though it was not supposed to happen. He came to this planet by mistake and met Bonku Babu. But in a sense, we can consider that this meeting between Ang and Bonku Babu was fateful. It was meant to be because Ang had taught him something that he really needed to know at this point in his life. There's no point in wasting more time on your earth. I had better go. Goodbye, Mr. Ang. I am very glad to have made your. Bonku Babu could not complete his sentence. In less than a second, almost before he could grasp what was happening, Ang had leapt into his spaceship and risen above Poncha Ghosh's bamboo grove. Then he vanished completely. Bonku Babu realized that the crickets had started chirping again. It was really quite late. Here, the encounter or the meeting comes to an end. Ang says that there is no point in staying any longer on earth and that it must leave. Bonku Babu tries to respond politely and thank Ang, but before he could even complete his sentence, Ang jumps back into the spaceship and then it takes off above the bamboo groves and disappears completely. Immediately, the crickets who had gone silent earlier, they start chirping again. This tells us that whatever unusual force had disturbed the natural environment is now gone and everything has returned to normal. Some time has passed since he met Ang and now it was quite late at night. Bonku Babu resumed walking towards his house, his mind still in a wondrous haze. Slowly, the full implications of the recent events began to sink in. A man, no, it was not a man, it was Ang, came here from some unknown planet. Who knew if anyone had ever heard its name and spoken to him? How extraordinary, how completely incredible. There were billions and billions of people in the world, but who got the chance to have this wonderful experience?
So now Bonku Babu resumes his walk home and his mind is described as being in a wondrous haze, which means he is still trying to process what has happened to him. Slowly, he begins to understand the significance of the event. He realizes that a being from another planet, something completely unknown and beyond human experience, came to Earth and spoke directly to him. He reflects on how extraordinary and unbelievable this is. Then he thinks about the number of people in the world, billions of them, and yet, out of all those people, he was the one who had this experience. This thought begins to change the way he sees himself. Bonku Bihari Datta, teacher of geography and Bengali in the Kankurgachi primary school. No one else. From today, at least in this particular matter, he was unique in the whole wide world. So, who had seen this wonderful sight? Who had met that extraordinary creature from another planet? Bonku Bihari Datta. A simple school teacher from Kankurgachi was unique because no one else in the world has had this exact experience. This gives him a new sense of importance. Bonku Babu realized that he was no longer walking. With a spring in every step, he was actually dancing. The next day was a Sunday. Everyone had turned up for their usual meeting at Shripati Babu's house. So now Bonku Babu feels changed, completely a new man. He is no longer walking slowly or tiredly. Instead, he feels light and energetic, almost as if he is dancing. There's a sense of joy and confidence in him now. The next day was Sunday, the day when all the men attended the usual gathering at Shripati Babu's house. There was a report in the local paper about a strange light, but it was only a small report. This light had been seen by a handful of people in only two places in Bengal. It was therefore being put in the same category as sightings of flying saucers. Tonight, Poncha Ghosh was also present at the meeting. He was talking about his bamboo grove. All the bamboo round the pond in the middle of the wood had lost their leaves. There had been a small newspaper report in the local newspaper about the strange light seen in the sky. However, it is not given much importance since only two people had seen it, and so it's treated as something similar to flying saucer sightings, which people often dismiss because nobody believes it to be true. Poncha Ghosh is also present and talks about something unusual in his bamboo grove. The leaves of the bamboo trees have suddenly fallen off the plants around the pond. So, the exact spot where the spaceship had landed, all the leaves around that area. They discuss this as a strange occurrence without understanding its true cause that is connected to the spaceship that landed over there. It was not unusual for leaves to drop in winter, but for so many plants to become totally bare overnight was a remarkable occurrence. Everyone was talking about it when suddenly Bhairav Chakravarti said, "Why is Bonku so late today?" Everyone stopped talking. So far, no one had noticed Bonku Babu's absence. "I don't think Bankam will show his face here today. Didn't he get an earful yesterday when he tried to open his mouth?" said Nidhu Babu. So, while it is normal for leaves to fall in winter, the sudden and complete loss of leaves had never happened before and they were all discussing it. Then suddenly, Bhairav Chakravarti notices that Bonku Babu is not present there. Till that moment, no one had realized that he was missing. Nidhu Babu makes a mocking comment suggesting that Bonku Babu is too embarrassed to come after being insulted the previous day. This shows that the others still see him as someone weak and who they can humiliate easily. No, no, Shripati Babu sounded concerned. "We must have Bonku. Ram Kanai, go and see if you can get hold of him." "Okay, I'll go as soon as I've had my tea," replied Ram Kanai and was about to take a sip when Bonku Babu entered the room. No, to say entered would be wrong. It was as if a small hurricane swept in the guise of a short, dark man, throwing everyone into stunned silence. Then it swung into action. So Shripati Babu says that Bonku Babu must be brought back to the meeting and he asks Ram Kanai to go and get him. So Ramkanai says, okay, I'll go after finishing my tea. But even before he could take a sip of his tea, Bonku Babu enters the room, not like he normally used to, but as if a small hurricane had swept into the room. This comparison is very important. Earlier, Bonku Babu was quiet, complacent, he was invisible. But now he is energetic, forceful, he's confident, and everybody seeing this is stunned into silence. Bonku Babu burst into a guffaw and laughed uproariously for a whole minute, the like of which no one had heard before, not even Bonku Babu himself. When he could finally stop, he cleared his throat and began speaking. Friends, I have great pleasure in telling you that this is the last time you will see me at your meeting. The only reason I am here today is simply that I would like to tell you a few things before I go. So Bonku Babu suddenly bursts into loud, uncontrollable laughter for a whole minute, something that no one has ever seen him do before, not even himself. Then he stops laughing and he starts to speak. He tells them that this would be the last time he would ever attend these meetings, and he says that he has only come here one last time to say a few things before he leaves. Number one, this is for all of you. You speak a great deal of rubbish. Only fools talk of things they don't know anything about. So now he is not holding back. He is speaking clearly and confidently. First, he tells all of them that they talk nonsense, especially about things they don't understand. This directly refers to their earlier discussion about satellites and rockets and things like that. This is something he would never have said earlier, and it shows that he is now no longer afraid of their reactions. Number two, this is for Chandi Babu. At your age, hiding other people's shoes and umbrellas is not just childish, but it's totally wrong. Kindly bring my umbrella and brown canvas shoes to my house tomorrow. Nidhu Babu, if you call me Bunkam, I will call you Nitwit, and you must learn to live with that. So now he has all the courage to speak to these people like this. He tells Chandi Babu specifically and criticizes his childish behavior of hiding his shoes and umbrellas, and he tells him that I want them back. Then he tells Nidhu Babu, if you keep calling me Bunkam, I am going to call you Nitwit, and you have to learn to accept it. So bunkam means nonsense or rubbish, and nitwit means a foolish person. So if he calls him an insulting name, he will call him also an insulting name back. This is very important because for the first time, Bonku Babu is speaking up for himself and refusing to tolerate disrespect. And Sripati Babu, you are an important man. Of course, you must have hangers on. But let me tell you, from today, you can count me out. If you like, I can send my cat. It's quite good at licking feet. So then he addresses Shripati Babu, the most important man on the school committee and also in the village. He says because he's an important man, he always has people hanging around. These men always were around him, but he would no longer be part of this group. He even adds a sarcastic remark that if Shripati Babu needs somebody to flatter him all the time, he will send his cat to lick his feet. This is a very bold insult to Shripati Babu as well as to the rest of the men over there. And oh, you are here as well, Poncha Babu. Let me inform you and everyone else that last night an Ang arrived from the planet Cranius and landed on the pond in your bamboo grove. We had a long chat. The Ang was most amiable. Then last he addresses Poncha Babu and tells him and the others how an alien named Ang had landed in the bamboo grove the previous night and how they had a conversation and the visitor was very friendly and pleasant. Bonku Babu finished his speech and slapped Bhairav Chakravarti's back so hard that he choked. Then he made his exit, walking swiftly, his head held high. So after finishing his speech addressing everybody, he slapped Bhairav Chakravarti on the back just as Bhairav used to do to him earlier. He is no longer the one being bullied and he leaves the room quickly with his head held high. This detail shows his new sense of dignity and self-respect. In the same instant, the cup fell from Ramkanai's hand, shattering to pieces and splattering hot tea on most of the others. So, after this shocking incident occurs, Ramkanai drops his cup in shock and it breaks, spilling tea everywhere. This shows how the same people who had once laughed at him are now left speechless and shaken. This final moment clearly shows that Bonku Babu has changed because he has finally found the courage to stand up for himself. So that was a slightly long story, but I hope you enjoyed it. Now let's look at some of the main themes in this story. The first theme is personal transformation and confidence. Bonku Babu undergoes a personal transformation after he meets Ang. That means he changes for the better. The alien's advice to stand up against injustice helps Bonku to change his meek nature and gain the courage to confront his bullies. The second theme is friendship versus ridicule. There is a contrast between the shallow and toxic relationships that Bonku Babu has with his so called friends who bully and mock him, and an alien who met him only for a short while but who recognized Bonku's worth rather than making fun of him. Even though Ang considers humans to be far inferior, but he still recognizes Bonku's goodness and treats him with respect. The third theme is curiosity and broadening of one's mind. Bonku already has a curious mind and he loves sharing his knowledge with interested students. But he always has to hold himself back with most people he knows because he fears that they might make fun of him. But Ang shows Bonku the wonders of the universe, shifting his focus from the narrow and limited thinking of the people around him to show him all the things he's always wanted to see. His village is a tiny place and the world is massive and full of wonder and possibility. The next theme is bullying. Ray portrays how soft spoken individuals are often bullied in society. They are seen as weak and are often treated as specimens or sources of amusement by mean people. And the last theme is human connection and empathy. Despite the science fiction setting, the core message connects directly to the title Bonku Babu's Friend. The story makes us think about what a true friend really is. In the story, it doesn't matter that Ang is an alien or that he meets Bonku Babu only for a very short while. Unlike the people around him, Ang does not mock or belittle him but understands him and gives him the advice that he truly needs. The lesson is that sometimes a real friend is not someone who spends a lot of time with us, but someone who respects us and helps us to grow as a human being. So that concludes this video. If you liked it, don't forget to like and subscribe and also check out the other videos in this playlist as well. I'll see you soon in the next video.